gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right. Boom.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. Where in this video, as you've probably seen by the title of it, we are finally getting back at the rabbit house. Alright, this is a project that has dragged out way too long. Like super duper way too long. I think this was started back in the fall, and we got it to this point you see here now, and things just kind of faded off. The winter came and the setup in the rabbit coop was sufficient, and basically just kind of just lost priority. As well, during that period of time, unfortunately, I had kind of a peak of mental illness and you know, a bout of anxiety and depression, and I'm sure there's many of us feeling that now with everything going on in the world and everything we've been through over the past couple of years. So anyways, mine came to a head back in December, and basically just took the wind right out of my sails. Alright, so pretty much anything that was optional became at a standstill. Anything that was necessary was begrudgingly done, and that's where you saw the hot water tank and everything being done, and a few other odds and ends. But anyways, mental illness is no joke. It's real, and unfortunately it came to get me, and it can get anybody. So thankfully now I've gone through seeing my doctor and started some new medications and seen a counselor, stuff like that. So there is help out there if you're suffering yourself. Please take it from me. Don't suffer alone. Don't just try to get through it. If it's affecting your daily life and you know how you're tackling the world, it may be time to go see somebody about it, talk to your family. And so I just wanted to get that out there because you know I was a bit oblivious to it myself and ignorant of it. And anyways, it came and got me, and I never ever expected it to happen, and it did. So this rabbit house was kind of a symptom of that illness, and like I say, the motivation was gone. I wasn't enjoying Christmas like I always did. There was no motivation to go and get gifts and whatnot. Anyways, thankfully my wife picked up the slack for me, and I got through it. So you're looking at a prime example of someone who can be affected by mental illness. And since going through it, I've spoken to so many people, and you would not believe how many people are out there suffering right now, and going and getting help, and thankfully digging themselves out of that hole. So I wanted to put that in this video just to let you know, it can happen. If you're there, if you've got any similar symptoms or signs or behavior changes, don't let it brew too long. Just try and get some help, and there is help out there, and you can get out of it. So that's all I'll say on that, because this video is to finally get the wind back in my sails, get back at this project, and finish it off. But that comes with a caveat, alright? And the caveat is that since I've gotten through most of the winter now with the rabbit coop as it is, I've discovered that this kind of wasn't necessary per se, alright? I kind of, toted this up as this wonderful little house I was going to make for the rabbits, and help protect them from the winter. It turns out those little animals are very resilient to cold. They actually seem to enjoy the cold, because leading up to the winter they would often flick their wood shavings away just to lie their bellies on the cold earth. So if anything, heat was more of an enemy to them than the cold. But what I've decided, and I'll let you in on it now, basically, we had 5 rabbits. Alright, and we were keeping them in a colony setting, in a pet-like atmosphere, trying to give them a happy environment. But it turns out, like I say, the 5 rabbits we got were all males, and they were intact males, and there was never any intention to neuter them or take them to the next level of being pets. Alright, this was part of a sustainability plan of alternative food sources and food security. And basically it was to kind of get into rabbitry and start getting our hands dirty on what it would take to take care of rabbits. So we're getting through that and refining systems. You've probably seen the hay feeder that I made. Poultry water is working out just great for rabbits. And my automatic feeder made out of PVC is great for the rabbit pellets. And I've made a couple of little design changes on that just so the pellets fall down easier, and that's working out great now. So those little infrastructure modifications, those are ongoing, and I'm sure they're going to be ongoing for a while yet, just as we figure things out. But like I said, we had 5 rabbits. We now have 4. One of the rabbits, it was really poor at grooming itself. It was biting the other rabbits. And again, you know, that was probably to be expected where I had 5 intact males living in a colony setting. They can tend to fight and bite. And anyways, this one was kind of the instigator of the group. So we've since dispatched that rabbit. I processed it and we've eaten it. And by amazing surprise, we love it. I loved it, my wife loved it, the kids ate it like it was honey sweet. All right. I tried multiple different recipes of cooking rabbit, frying the rabbit, baking the rabbit, and they all turned out great. So our mindset has really kind of focused in now on the production of food and food security side of rabbitry. And for that reason, my efforts are going to be changing now to kind of getting around production of rabbit and still enjoying the petness of them in the sense of, you know, raising baby bunnies and enjoying that cute stage and everything like that. But the end goal of raising the rabbits is going to be for food or for sale. Whether, you know, I sell them as pets or sell them for the person to process themselves. I think there's food guidelines here that I can't dispatch them and process them and sell the meat per se, but I can sell the rabbit and let the person do their processing and go from there. So that's kind of where our goals have been focused on now. We've really been enlightened by the great taste of the meat, and it's so much like chicken, and we love chicken. And these homegrown, raised on hay and pellet, there's pretty much no gamey taste to the rabbit at all. It's just chicken-like taste, and I would say a texture somewhere between chicken and pork in firmness. Right? A little bit more firm than chicken and a bit less firm than pork or pork chop. So that's where we are. And so with all that said, I need to kind of tailor things towards breeding and multiplying rabbits and growing them out and getting to that point of being able to sell and process them for our food security. And as you all know, inflation and meat prices are on the rise. So if we can do this and have an affordable, sustainable source of meat, you know, it's there's no reason why not. You know, we got to move past the idea of the bunnies being so cute and cuddly. And I've been moving towards the premise of animal husbandry. And in short, animal husbandry is where you get your animals and then over time you selectively breed them for characteristics or traits that you find preferable. So out of our 5 rabbits, right now we pretty much have 2 of the male rabbits out there that have a temperament and behavior and body shape and everything which would suit our needs, right? They have the cuteness factor and nice coloring, which would be appealing to those wanting to buy them as pets. They're also calm, they're not so skittish as the other ones, and as well they're still bulky enough that they're producing an adequate amount of meat to justify raising them for that food source. So that leaves 2 of those. I wanted to have 2 bucks just in case one is not able to do its duty, and that leaves us with 2 extra bucks out in the coop, and I will be processing those into meat. And so hopefully there's no viewers out there that are offended or upset at that concept, because typically you think of wild rabbit or just these, you know, plain white rabbits or plain black rabbits, something less cute, we'll say, for meat production. Whereas these are more of the calico, browns, you know, pretty colors that your mind kind of wants to keep the idea of processing it separately. but I can tell you right now there was plenty of meat on the rabbit that we did process. It was delicious, tender, like I said, pretty much no gamey taste whatsoever. So these are very viable breeds for processing into meat, and that's what we're going to be putting more of our efforts towards. So that brings me full circle now back to this rabbit house. Like I say, I'm getting a bit chatty here, but if you watch my videos on the regular, you know that I am a chatty guy, and I'm blunt and honest, and I tell you exactly what I'm doing and how things are, and troubles I encounter and things that I find useful. So hopefully you've got that from my personality so far in my videos, and maybe you appreciate it. Maybe you're skipping ahead in the video to just the action of making this rabbit house. That's in your hands, but I try to lay it all on the line so you guys see everything I'm doing and understand my thought process through it. So the rabbit house, okay. Basically, I'm thinking this is a great kindling house, or house for the does to give birth to the future rabbits and raise them in a nice insulated, dark, burrow-like atmosphere. And I'm going to be putting little doors on the openings. I was initially going to keep these open for rabbits in the colony setting to go in and out and just use them willy-nilly. But I'm thinking that I'm actually going to put doors on it, that when I have a pregnant doe, I can put her in this for kindling, and then I can also separate the doe from the kits when they're 4-6 weeks old, so they can begin growing out in a protected atmosphere without any of the colony bunnies that I may have outside getting at them, hurting them, whatnot. Okay, just basically a nice insulated, clean environment, easy to clean. It doesn't have a mesh bottom to let the feces and urine get out, and that may be something I'm going to have to deal with, because I never really thought of that so much when I first started building this. And it is a sealed, insulated base on it, so urine and rabbit pellets, feces pellets, are probably going to get stuck in there and need to be cleaned out. Again, it's all learning. I don't know exactly how this house is going to be utilized, but that's kind of where my mind is at now, and I'm going to go forward that. But basically I need to get this finished and get it out of here, and make room for more projects throughout the rest of the winter and the spring, because not only meat rabbits are on our radar, but also meat chickens. So I'm going to need a brooder, possibly a rabbit tractor set up for letting the rabbits out to eat the grass. And anyways, things are kind of coming together idea wise. I just got to make it happen. And thankfully, now that I've gone through everything that I did in December, and I'm medicated as I should be, and motivation's coming back, I'd love to take you guys along that journey. Hopefully you learn something. We'll learn it together at the very least, and hopefully keep these videos coming out to you on the regular, and really, just explore this side of food sustainability and security together. And you'll see what I do, see what works, what doesn't, and maybe apply it yourself, because it sure seems like we're going into some hard times, and preparing for those times is probably a priority right now. It definitely is for me, and as we see those prices climb in stores, pretty soon good protein, healthy, lean protein and meat is becoming very, very expensive. Especially the price of gas going up, so there's money got to be sacrificed somewhere to pay the other side. So as far as meat, I'd rather just pay for some feed and hay and let them graze on my own grass to produce an affordable meat, hopefully, once all the infrastructure is in place. And that's the biggest challenge, is getting the proper infrastructure done and moving forward from there. Alright, so we're probably pretty deep into the video now. That was a long ramble, but like I said, I want you guys to know where I stand, what's going on, where my mind and head is at, and hopefully you've appreciated some of the transparency that I've just given you. I think it was important to let it be out there and be known, just in case there are some of you that can relate, and hopefully help somebody during this trying time. Alright, so I'm just going to start getting back at the build. We got to get the sides enclosed with some plywood, get some more insulation in there, get some dividers put in the middle, seal some of that up with caulking, and get a lid on this and go from there. Alright, so that's the plan. Hopefully the video won't be too much longer than this. I'll try to get it condensed down for you guys as best I can. But I really needed to talk to you guys and let you know what's been going on. And not everything is peachy behind the camera, okay? This is real life we're in now, and I want you to know that you're not alone if you're going through this as well. So let's get to the build. Thanks for listening, and on we go. Alrighty, so getting started here now. First thing I want to do is get our dividers set up. So at the end, I've put these cross bracings, and I'm basically going to be copying this, and I need 3 more of those to fill up 1, 2, 3 dividers, which will give us 4 compartments. I got a little bit of leftover wood here, and I've kind of lined it up. I'm a little bit short in one area, but it should be enough to make a brace just by cutting this little triangle off here. And I'll have one of those done, and then I'll use that as a bit of a template to make 2 more. So I'll get that marked up with some pencil there now and make a cut, and we'll get that put in place. So I'll line this up now with the bottom. You can probably see now a little bit extra that I have here. So I'm just going to mark where the one that's in place is, and then I'll mark underneath. Okay, so that'll give me 2 markings. I'll use my square to draw a line between those. And if you're a new viewer, feel free to go back through my rabbit coop, rabbit house build series, and you'll see how we got to this point we're at here now. And that'll help the channel as well with some more views, and it's nice to see how I got where we are right now. So got my line made. I'm just going to cut that little bit off, and I'll do a little test fitment, and then we can use this as a bit of a template then. So let's try that out. Alright, so this little part is turning out to be a little trickier than I anticipated. I did multiple measurements. They seem like it should have worked, but it's not. So anyways, I'm going to start off from scratch making these 3 supports here. So I'm just going to figure out my angles on this, get these cut, and we should be good to go. I'll probably take out the miter side just to get some proper angles on this, and that'll help us with a little bit of accuracy. Alrighty, so off camera I did a little bit of tinkering with a scrap piece of wood, and I figured out that a 16-degree angle on both ends is going to give me what I need, and a tip-to-tip length of 21 inches and 5/16. So I'm going to try and get that cut out here now on the saw, and go forward. So I'm going to start off just by putting that 16-degree edge at the end, and then I'll go down my 21 and 5/16 and cut off again at the 16-degree angle. So that's the plan. Hopefully it works out. Like I say, if you've watched me enough, you know that I'm just kind of figuring this out as I go. You know, I'm not a carpenter, so this ain't professional Bob Vila or nothing here. But we just do what's appropriate for our animals, get done what we can, and hopefully it's enough, right? So let's get this 16-degree angle put at the end, and then we'll do our measurement from there. Alright, so I'm going to continue the same angle, but like I said, I'm going to measure now from the tip down 21 and 5/16. I'm not left-handed, so I'm making chicken scratches here probably. There we go. And I'm just going to line up the blade with that mark. cut to the right of that mark so I'm preserving all the length of that 21 and 5/16. Alright, so here's our new test piece. Hopefully it works out. Let's find out. There we are. Squeeze it into place a little bit. But yeah, we are good there. Check it down a little bit further here as well. Make sure we're the same all along. That's good. Alright, so we're good down the whole way. So I'll make another 2 more like this and we'll get those put in place. There we are. There's our 3 cross braces. So we'll go and get those attached. Okay, let's get these attached. I got my trusty Donkey Kong glue here, as my boy likes to call it. And I'm just going to be using a couple of 2-inch screws to get this put in place. Not worrying about splitting or anything like that. This is not really structural per se. And so I'm just going to glue both ends. I do love using wood glue. Provides a really good support and definitely provides good rigidity with these little projects. So just lining this up with the studs that I already have in place. Just like so. There we are. And we'll get that secured. Alright, so that's plenty for that. The glue will set up and hold that nicely. And I'll do the next 2 as well. Alright, so now we got our cross braces all done, but one downfall of doing this and improvising as you go, and also having probably 5 months break in between resuming, is you kind of forget your plans. And my initial plan was to do plywood on the inside of these walls as one big sheet and just cut out the 4 doors. And now I got my bracings in place. So in order to get the plywood to come up all the way to the top, I'm going to end up having to edge out around the bracings that I just put in. So I got the option of hauling the bracings back out and trying to do what I was going to do in the first place by fitting a sheet the whole way in there. Or just take a bunch of measurements, draw it all out on the plywood, edge them out, and I'm going to go the hard way. I'm going to do exactly that. When I measure all this out, I'm going to measure and cut out the little squares and hopefully have it as one big jigsaw piece that fits in there. So we'll find out how that goes. But in the meantime, I got some little cross bracings to do in the bottom, because these are going to have plywood dividers on both sides with insulation in between each separate compartment. So yeah, it's pretty intricate what I'm doing here. You know, you guys don't need to be as detailed or troublesome as what I'm doing here. My mind works in funny ways sometimes. So I'm just going to carry on suck it up and go with my original plan, is to insulate all these separate compartments, and you know, hopefully it'll pan out. So I'm going to measure across the bottom, get those pieces cut out, get those caulked and screwed down, and then I'll start the intricate work of etching out some plywood to put in as a wall. Alright, so we got those cut. Let's get them put in place. Let's put a bead of caulking down across where they're going. And this will just help to seal the urine and stuff from getting under the wood and rotting it. Now I got these cut at a little bit of a tight fit, so I'm probably going to have to bang them in place with a hammer, but they are properly sized. So let's get these in place. And now I'll get these screwed down into place. So now with that bit of framing done, I'm just going to have to go ahead and tackle probably the hardest part, and that is the long sheet of plywood with all the notches and everything taken out. So that's just going to involve me doing a bunch of measurements and basically getting a template done out on all the little nooks and crannies that I'm going to need to chop out of there. So just as well to get started on that, I'll go do the measurements now. But first, what I'm going to do is just measure this front wall, which is 21.5. So I got a piece of plywood over there. I'm going to strip a full length, 8 foot at 21 inches wide, and or 21.5. 21.5, and at least then I'll have that smaller piece to start working with. That'll be the full height of the inside, and then I'll start going along and marking out the different notches I need to take out. So instead of taking the rabbit house down off of my workhorses, I'm just going to lay the plywood over top of this and take my skill saw, run the length of it at 21.5 inches, and go from there. So I'll include that right now. Alright, so now I got my sheet cut to size for the front wall, and this is the part in the video where I just make it work. Right? There's no big description going to happen here. I'm just going to line this up with the studs that I need to trim little pieces out for, and I'm just going to mark off each side of each stud where the sheet lies here now, and basically I'll measure the depth of each of the studs and cut that much of a square out, and hopefully that will do the top. Then I'll do the same for the bottom, and as far as the 4 doors, I'm going to put this in place and then trace the doors out instead of doing all the measurements for those. And that's my plan. So I'll go ahead and get marking. Alright, so I got my measurements drawn out. I had to change a couple of things along the way, but I think I'm ready to cut these edges out, see how it goes. Let's find out. Alright, so I got all my cuts made. I have not test fitted it at this point, so I could be up for utter embarrassment. But yeah, it's time to test it, see if it fits. I did mark top and bottom, so it should go in like this. So hopefully it'll fit in through the side as well. Let's find out. Alright, let's see if we're off or not. So unfortunately this does not want to rotate up into place. There's just not enough space to do that. So that was an overlooked item on my side as far as physics and rotation goes, I guess. So I got 2 options. I can extend the slots for the bracing and end up with big holes underneath each, or I can take this piece and rip it down in half and put it up in 2 pieces. So I'm going to opt to rip it down the length and put it up in 2 pieces. I don't want to do that, but it is what it is, and I'll seal it up with caulking and wood glue and it'll be fine. Alright, so I'm going to take this on out, rip it down, and we'll keep pushing forward. Alright, so exactly not how I wanted this to be, but it is what it is. So hopefully it'll fit this time. I still left most of the material on bottom, just so that there's not as many seams for dirt to get in through from the rabbits. And we'll see if this fits into place like that. Clean that there for a second, and then we'll get the top piece. Make sure I got the right piece in the right place. There we are. That is a flush fit. Might have had to do two separate pieces, but you know what? It's done. A little bit of glue along the top of this when I screw the bottom one in, and we should be good. We're going to be gluing everything anyways. So there we are. Alright, so I'll get that glued up and start screwing that in place. So one more thing I do need to do before we screw that in place though is get this laid up and trace out these doors and get those cut. Alright, so we'll get that taken out. This should be a relatively quick job cutting out those four doors, and we'll get that done now. So finally, it's time to get this thing glued and screwed on. So as you can tell, this probably would have been a lot easier if done before I did any of the bracing. And I think Gorilla has changed their formulation because this don't want to come out as easy as it once did. Could be an old batch, I don't know. But it's not as easy as to work with as I've had in the past. Alright, so we got that glued. So one other thing, I'll probably put some caulking around the bottom there, get it sealed, and we'll pop this in. Alright, so we got caulking in, we got glue on. It's time to get some screws, get this held on. So off camera, I did a little bit of caulking around the plywood that I just put on there. And at this point in time now, I am ready to get the top piece put on. I'm very ready to do it actually. And we'll probably glue up around about there. I don't know what's going on with this Gorilla Glue today. I got another one there. I'm going to just see if it's the same. Doesn't look like it's going to be the same. Alright, this one's running just fine. So I'll probably bring the other one back next trip to Home Depot and get a replacement. There we are. I'm just going to put one more strip of glue along the top of this plywood just to laminate them back together. And that'll just help eliminate drafts and things that could make the bunnies uncomfortable. Like I said, we are looking to produce meat, but I want it to be as humane as possible and the bunnies to live a good life. Alright, let's get that up in place. Like so. Now, get some screws in that. I'll wipe off some of that excess glue, and this side will be done. There was definitely a lot more messing around with this side than I had planned, and that's an understatement. Hopefully the rest goes a little bit easier. This is the... I kind of like getting the hardest part out of the way first, so here it was. And there we are, that's it for the screws. I'll wipe off some of that excess glue there now, and that piece will be attached. And finally, the last thing I'm going to do, just for good measure, is a bit of caulking around each of these areas here. And just get those relatively airtight. When we put a lid on this, you know, our air tightness is going to be compromised, but I'll do as best I can. There we are. One thing, if you're new to my channel, you'll know that I really kind of overbuild things, sometimes unnecessarily, but usually my goal is to make my investments last. Right? So if I can cut down on a little bit of water penetration or prevent some kind of rot, and especially with our climate here in Newfoundland, all these little things are going to add up to some percentage of benefit to the animals. Whether it's an extra degree of heat, one less day of freezing, or you know, anything like that. And I really want to maximize and optimize things as best I can. I think there's a saying something along the lines of, if it's worth doing it right. Or anything worth doing is worth doing right. So I try to do that. I try to do things right the first time. Do it right the first time, and then you won't need to go back and do it again. That's my hope anyways. You know, if putting a bit of glue and a bit of caulking on a seam means that rabbit urine or water doesn't penetrate and rot very expensive wood, then it's worth the time to take and do it right. So here we are. That's it. I try to do my best, is all I can do. Alright, boys and girls, you know what? This was more than I bargained for today, I'm going to be honest. In my head I pictured this going a lot faster. I'll be honest, I almost pictured finishing it today, but we are far from finished. Got into a lot more than I thought I was going to, and definitely did things in an order which made it harder. As far as getting that front wall put on and having to split it in half and put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. All in all, progress is made. It's good to be back at it, and we'll have to resume this on the next video. So as far as you see here now, we got the front wall done and enclosed. Next video will be the rear wall and the side walls, hopefully. And if things go a bit better than today, then we may even get some insulation in those dividers and get those plywood over as well. So as you can tell, it's a pretty rough and tumble little rabbit house that I'm making here. You could probably stay in it yourself by the time it's done. And you know, just make the best for your animals of what you got available to you and what you can expand into it. And I got all the materials already here, so this was what my mind originally came up with, so I'm going to follow through and figure out a good use for it. Hopefully, like I say, it'll be a nice kindling box, 4 separate birthing areas, and then go on from there. So that's where my mind lies right now, but mainly where it lies right now is that I've had enough for today. My motivation is waning. I've spent many hours out here, more than I intended, and this is probably a very long video, so if you made it this far, you might actually like my content, and I appreciate it if so. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe, like the video, ring the notification bells. If you're seeing this on YouTube, all those things help the channel to grow. And if you're seeing it anywhere else, well, I haven't posted it anywhere else yet, so look at me go, posting it somewhere else. But if not, probably just YouTube. Here we are. All those things help the channel to grow, and I'm definitely appreciative of the time you spend here watching my content. I hope you enjoy it, hope you're learning something, and if not, you're just here to, you know, keep me company in spirit. And hopefully you didn't mind the big ramble at the beginning of the video, but I think a lot of it needed to be said, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that needed to hear it, so it is what it is. Take care of each other, right? Alright, and speaking of that, until next video, I hope you're happy, and I hope you're healthy. So take care of each other, and peace out.